This is only the beginning.
Hello everyone, Kevin here bringing you my premium deck list I took to Cali for their regional, and I need to set up a little bit of credibility here just so I just feel like this is something I need to do because I've done it in my last deck as well. So I've been playing Megacolony for a while. This top 8 match here I won in 2018 with Megacolony before they were even somewhat meta. That was before the Ghidorah Stride as well. So that was my first major top with this deck, well, this clan, and then my second major top was with Springfest this year with Border Colony. I ended up getting 3rd place. Couldn't place higher. I finally lost the mirror match. I won all the mirror matches until top 4 when I finally lost the mirror match. Now let's actually talk about the main deck. The stuff that I brought to Cali. So, my idea was I wanted to have a little bit of text for certain decks that weren't just for one deck, it was for multiple decks. So I'm not countering the counter to counter the counter. I am running cards that counter a majority of decks that I thought I would face. That is something you need to keep in mind with this deck build, and it did work. I saw my pieces when I wanted to see them, and they helped me in a lot of my matchups. There was my total record that day I went 5-3. The wins don't matter as much as the losses, but I'll talk about that later in the video. For now, I want to just talk about the deck itself, and then some other choices you can run, and then I'll talk about my performance. So, main deck. You see I run Rotting. He is a free resource. He is a free call when you stride. So you don't have to keep rewriting. See, that's the difference between this deck and Order Colony, is I don't keep rewriting as much. I don't need to rewrite as much. So striding will just keep proccing him, unlike Maple, where you have to rewrite. Get some water. Next, I run 1 copy of Scissors. He's just a restander. He gives himself +10 for a Soul Blast to restand, and with Drop Zone effect, it's a Counter Blast to call himself in Drop Zone, which will then trigger his on-placement effect. Then I have 3 copies of P. Aragador because Protect 1, multi-attacks for no cost, just retire her, and her and the called unit, the grade 3 I call, will both get +10. And she has a CB Axe skill, the Cradle, which is whatever. Like, if I'm fighting against a deck that devoted really early, I can just punish it and Cradle them out, so that's cool. And as long as you can't, and then I run 1 copy of Helldemize, who has 2 skills. First skill, when placed, choose my rearguard, stand it, choose my opponent's rearguard to rest it. The rest is important. The restand is big because it's a free restand. Then, of course, Empress can call it during the battle phase. And then I have his other skill, which is a Continue, who is my opponent's back row in the same color as him cannot stand it. So if I play against a deck like let's go with Steam Maidens, I can call this into the cat column and stop it from restanding. So on my first grade 3 turn, since they will get first strike, I will use Empress, not Empress, Fedora, to call him out of the deck into the lane with the cat. So not only did I just steal their booster, I also stopped them from using their on attack while boosted effect too. So nice card. Also, I could just Cradle here, but it's an option. We like having options here. Then I run the 1G Aragadora. This is in here for Force Cleanse and Protect Cleanse. Excel does not care. She loses so much value because Excels generate additional circles. 1 second. But against Force Cleanse and Protect Cleanse that have only 5 rearguard circles, being able to take 2 of them is big. Because there's a lot of decks that don't care that I say you can only call from hand. But when I say I take your rearguard circles, you're not calling their period, is good. Like Deepleys, they need 4, well they only have 3. Spike Brothers, they need all 5, but they only have 3. Guard, just you name it. Most decks wants to use both front row rearguard circles and 1 to 2 back row. And me saying you don't have that is just amazing. Then on to the green twos. 1 second. This isn't my first take of this video, so my mouth dries out really quick. Okay, so the green twos, I run 3 copies of Armor Beetle. He has 2 effects. First is a axe skill to rest another rearguard, and then he gets +6. And I choose one of my opponent's rearguards and rest it, and cannot stand to stand base. This is good in the early game, and this helps in the late game if I need to rest something. And then his other effect is continuous. When he is rested, my opponent cannot intercept nor boost in that column that he is in. This is a blanket effect, so it gets around certain resist effects. And then I run 3 copies of Revolution. He is a 10k hard ride, and he also allows me to get a soul and charge 1 if I attack 5 times or more, which Ghidorah and Empress will both achieve this. So he's a decent other option to run as well. Then I run 3 copies of Garafa. He allows you to draw a card for Counterblast 1 if my opponent has 1 or less standing rearguards, and then he also gains a bunch of power for each of the rested rearguards. Then he has the continuous effect that whatever column he is in, my opponent cannot intercept, nor can they move cards in that column. So a lot of decks like Narukami will leave grade 1s in the front row and then later try to move them back and call a better grade 2 in front of it, but now they can't, so that's cool. And of course they can just stun burst anyway, so maybe not the best example. And then my next grade 2 I ran 2 of was Sweet Cocktail, the V promo. I definitely sucked at the reprinted her with her old art. I can't wait for the other print of the promo with the correct art. And her effect is on attack of a grade 2 or greater Vanguard, or when she's placed in Guardian Circle, Soul Blast 1, I choose one of my opponent's standing rearguards. They can choose to retire it, and if they cannot retire a standing rearguard, I give my front row +5 and I draw a card. This is amazing. She is offensive pressure that draws me cards, and she is defensive tools that gives me power to make it easier for me to guard and draws me a card. She replaces herself. Fantastic card. Then for grade 1s, I forgot. She has the second effect, which is when she is rode upon, you can cradle. That's whatever. If you do it, fine. If you don't, whatever. Then grade 1s, I run 3 copies of V-Blister, because being able to have a grade 1 that keeps returning to hand and can draw you a card if you have 6 or less is fantastic for Soul Blast 1. Then he does need all your opponent's players to be rested, and he has to be in the back row to return to hand, so keep these in mind. And then his other effect is when he is placing Guardian Circle, if my opponent's Vanguard is rested, I can discard 1 Soul Blast 1, rest the standing rearguard, and it can't stand until end of turn. So this is big against a lot of decks because they have rearguards that like to restand, and I just say no. Or if they like have an ideal rearguard that they want to pressure you with, I can just tap it before. And then I can even guard later So like, let's say they already swung their Vanguard and they have 2 rearguard attacks. I can use it to guard 1 and rest the other. It's just an amazing card. It's just this isn't order quality. We're not drawing 5 cards a turn now. So his discard 1 hurts a lot more now. And then sleeve tugging just for Narukami. I still ended up losing the Narukami matchup, so if you want to take this down to 1 and take it out of the deck, I don't really. It's not favorable. This helps, but sleeve tugging's okay. Then I read 4 copies of High Class Mob. So he's your counter charger. His skill is continuous in deck and in soul. He's a grade 3, which the soul part will matter, but the deck does because you can search it with Gridora and Empress. And then his other effect is auto rest himself and then bottom any normal unit and then countercharge 1. So I'm considering running a normal PG, like an overdressed PG, because I can bottom it with high class mob. But I generally find myself constantly bottoming either scissors or Helldemize. So then I run 3 copies of Little Dorcas from B. It's a top 5 searcher. It's good. Being able to pull through cards is fantastic. Definitely when you have grade 3 hill guards, you have grade 3 vanguards on the right, you have grade 3 rear guards. You have a grade 1 that says it's a grade 3, so just a fantastic card. Then I run 1 copy of the G Blister. So this was a medical. I felt like I was going to fight D-Please. I felt like I was going to fight Regalia, and I did. I fought both. So this is fantastic. I just say, hey, your X Gallop can't restand. Hey, your Norm will not restand your Vanguard. So it's pretty good. Then the V starter, because the draw matters. And then 1 copy of the Shadow Elemental here. Once again, against D-Please, against DI, against Overlord, against Regalia. This comes up, and it did. Being able to 1-drop PG without being a Sentinel mattered. Because remember that D-Please can only retire Sentinels with Yuga. They cannot retire, whatever Sentinel's name is, they cannot retire this Cray Elemental. He is not a Sentinel. They cannot retire him. So, good card. Then, the Hill Guards, because it's grade 3, it's searchable, it has good effects. It's okay. This one works out better. You can try the Cray Elemental one if you want. Draws, crits. So, if you were to cut space for other triggers, I would cut the Soul Charge crit in G-Zone. Well, first, let's not forget the elephant. So this PG here is absolutely cracked. I think every premium deck needs to run this as a 1-up unless it somehow makes your deck inconsistent. Like Steam Mage is a good example where running this card could be an issue, but this is literally one of your only outs to D-Please when they go swing Geoma Glass for 5 damage, or let's say they have a burst skill, swing X Gallop 3 damage, or swing their new stride 5 damage. Just like, this is one of your only ways around it. It's a 1-drop block on all strides that have triple drive. The G-Zone, I'll talk about G units. Let's go with G guards first. So I run the 1 Dismal because it protects a rear guard. There's times where your opponent will intentionally try to deny you, like D-Please is a good example. They will swing to your Vanguard with their Vanguard, you guard it, and then they'll just swing rear guards past. So instead you can Dismal, protect your rear guard, so now at least you can save 1 from their big rear guard swings. So Dismal's not as important as she was in the past. In the past, Dismal mattered a lot more than she does now. And then I run 1 of this, the 7 G-Guard, the flip G-Guard. It's just, we don't need a turbo to GP8 because our GP8's not that good. And her effect also isn't that good. It's your opponent choose 2 rear guards to rest, and if they can't, you draw a card, and or they don't want to, you draw a card, counter soul charge. So it's free resources, but you're wasting a 15k shield to get a 15k shield G-guard that replaced itself in hand. So yes, you replaced the card, but it gained no shield. So you're guarding a Vanguard, and you need to guard more unless you want to take the attack. And then I run 1 copy of Feather. She's a good free 10k shield plus guard. And then I run 3 copies of our new wall here. Soul Blast 1, he gains 30k. Your opponents can rest rear guards to minus them, but a lot of times they won't, or they only rest maybe 1 or 2, so it's still a really good guard. And then plus, if you have 2 G guards, you can just guard, they'll rest up, and you guard it again, and now they have no rest targets, so it's fantastic. Hello everyone, Kevin here with a quick edit. I just paused the video, I'm going to slap this in here. So I realized whenever I was talking about my G-Zone, I forgot to mention my strides, so I'll briefly go over my strides here. So I ran 1 copy of Overwhelm. She's in here just to pressure with either crit and quad drive, or just to draw me a hand. Like say I barely scraped by my opponent's turn, I can draw a hand if they have a bunch of rear guards. And then her other effect is nice as well, GP3 Dark Device. All my units get +3 from each of their spent damage, so for each counterblast they have, I get +3. Unfortunately, the 3 doesn't really come up that much because it's hard to be in a situation where they have a bunch of counterblasts and those +3s will matter. And then plus Dark Device is very easy to play around. They just have to call a standing rear guard behind their Vanguard. And because I'm on her, they can G-guard, so decks like Bermuda Triangle can very easily make that happen and turn off the power. Then the quad drive with the crit can easily be played out as well. They just call 2 rear guards. I drew more than 1, so I don't get the quad drive with the crit. I only drew 2 cards, which isn't that good either. So just overall, the stride is extremely situational. I never strode into it when I was in Cali, but it's there in case I need it. Then I run 3 copies of our new stride, so he's really good. He's our first free stride that flips that we ever got. Thank God we have this card. So whenever you stride him, it's just flip 1, and that's the cost. And my opponent retires a standing rear guard, I countercharge, draw, whatever. But if he is face up in the G zone, I can activate that same cost again, but instead it's counterblast 1, soul charge, or rear guard. Then my opponent chooses a standing rear guard to retire, and I countercharge, draw 1. But if they are unable to, I actually choose their Vanguard and I neg it 10,000. And in Vanguard, you can get negged into negative numbers. So let's say you're on a 13k Vanguard. If I neg you with the stride, then you go down to 3, and I neg you with a face-up copy in the G-Zone, you will go down to -7. So yeah, pretty good. Definitely helps make sure we're hitting numbers here. Since Order Colony's gone, we don't have Persona rides, and numbers matter more than ever. Plus that new V promo helps at +5. Then the next stride I run 3 copies of is 3 copies of Flawless. This is purely in here to stop my opponent from calling rear guards. There's a bunch of matchups where this matters. First being Nightmare Dolls, Grand Blue, and then decks like Spike Brothers and Bermudas. There's just a bunch of decks that keep calling from hand. So I can just Lawless, and they can't do that anymore. I can just stop them from meeting their requirements, stop them from hitting their conditions, stop Gold Paladins from doing Gold Paladin things. There's just, the card is fantastic. You need to play it at 3, because there are some matchups where you just have to keep going into it and make sure you can keep going into it. I believe that's all of my strides. Oh no, hold on. The most important stride. 4 copies of Empress. So this card, hands down, just carries the entire clan. It is a counterblast 1 flip, and my opponent suffers, to put it nicely. Her effect is all my opponent's units cannot stand during their stand phase. Yes, that includes your Vanguard. And then her other condition says until the end of your turn, my opponent's turn, they can only call from hand. So no G guarding, no superior calling, but you can play around it. You can superior ride, and as long as your deck only calls from hand anyways, it doesn't matter. So there is a workaround, but this card is extremely busted, and it is the lifeline that carries Megacolony in premium. But then, if that wasn't good enough, she also goes aggro. She has another skill, which is on attack, Soul Blast 1. Search your deck for a grade 3, call it to rear guard, and it gets plus 10, which as you see in my list, I run High Class Mop, which is a grade 3, and then I run multiple grade 3s, being Heldamai, Scissors, Rotting Ursup, and of course Gridora. Even my Heal Guardian. These are all targets that can be called to rear guard when needed, and get that plus 10, and then of course Scissors and Heldamais, their on placement effects will trigger. Just a fantastic combo, an amazing try to say the least. And then that now wraps up my G zone, so back to the rest of the video. So that about covers the main deck. I'm going to pull up this Excel sheet here that has some of my other choices. So let's go over the grade zeros first, I guess, because this is the least impactful part. So you can run Earth Dreamer. He's a stand trigger who has a GB1 skill that at the beginning of your opponent's turn, you can return him back to deck, and as long as they have 3 rested rear guards, you can draw 2 cards. So the problem is your opponent having 3 rested rear guards, because first you have to have it, and then you have to have the board state. Opponent has to have the board state. It's just very clunky, not very consistent. I don't recommend this card. Then there's Tree Hopper. So this is a crit that returns itself back to deck. So if you feel that you need that, run it. Like the guy I fought in top 4 in Springfest, who was playing Order Colony as well, he ran this crit. So I'll just say, if you want Reinsurgence, you can have it at the cost of giving up better shielded crits. Battler G is a stand trigger that's a act soul charge effect to countercharge one. So once again, if resources is a problem, you can try this, and then you can try the 10k shield draw triggers from standard Nina. I personally like 8 crit. I don't think I would want to go down to 7 crit to run that extra draw or anything of that nature. And for grade 1s, there's Rollock. So if you want to play the grade 2 game or survive the grade 2 game better, you can run Rollock. The only problem is Megacolony has an okay grade 2 game, but there's just decks like Steam Mains that just do it so much better. Like, it's suicide. You just need to write up. And so I don't take much stock into Rollock. You can run a Hanalei, but this deck is a 5 attack deck, so running Hanalei can bite you. So I'm not really a big fan of that either. Then a lot of decks can get rid of it. So like how much space you're willing to run this card at, and like how many copies of it can you even get. So just overall is not too good in this build. Then there is another Cradle Mental, Mastov, who has the ability that at the end of each player's turn, you drop your hand down to 8. So you and your opponent at each end phase has to drop down to 8. That's an interesting thing. I didn't really see it too much. I took her out to run an extra bell. Obviously, you know, if you want, you can try her out. Cut the bells and run that as a 1-up or 2-up, whatever. Then another option is Stealth Millipede, because you can arrest it with the Armor Beetle, and then your opponent can't stand the rear guards in the lane that it's in. But it's just not that important right now. It's mainly in here because it's a countercharger and they let it hit. So, yeah. Then you have Butterfly Officer, who is a 10k giver. She calls, rest herself, give 10. Then the unit you gave the 10 to has to go to Soul, and then you countercharge. So this is pretty cool. I definitely think Butterfly Officer can be ran in the deck again. We find the space, wiggle her in, and then get some free resources, get some free power. Then the next card I want to talk about is Hornet, who has the on hit, where if he's on Vanguard or on Rearguard, if he hits top 6 out of 3, and if he's on Rearguard, he goes to Soul. So this is another thing I had an issue with. I just wasn't riding correctly in the tourney, so I considered running Hornet just to help increase the odds of getting the correct grade 1 ride, grade 3 ride. Okay, then there's Area Stiller. So Area Stiller was really good in Border Colony because you didn't get Protect Gifts and then you want to rewrite. So every turn you were intentionally rewriting. So you always try to have a grade 3 to Soul Blast to activate Area Stiller's effect to get a Protect Gift. But in this build, you don't always need to rewrite, and you all more likely just find yourself pitching your rewrites just to stride. So I'm not a big fan of it in this build, but obviously it can still be ran. You can find the space to run it, so if you want to, go for it. Vulcan, he's a resist grade 1 that can also countercharge. The issue is he's a G-era card that is a 5k shield, 7k booster, but he does have resist. It's just, not too worried about him. Then you have Little Dorcas. So you're the G-era Little Dorcas. So as long as you have a grade 3, which you should, because you have 7 grade 3s, and then you have the 4 heal effect grade 3s. So you have a total of 11 grade 3s in your deck. So the more likely you will have it, and then you can just pitch and then get your Lenora right. And it searches for any Dark Face. I was really considering finding space for it, but I just felt like just running the V would be enough. And unfortunately, that didn't end up paying out too well for me. So, oh no, try the G1 if you want. Twilight Rider. This is another card I'm considering trying because it's another card that replaces itself. So you get to have a 10k Dark Face requirement. So it has to have, your Vanguard needs to be Dark Face, and it has to be a grade 4. Then he's a 10k booster that goes to Soul and draws you a card. So he replaces himself, and he's a 10k booster. It's pretty good. Then, as long as you stride Fedora, no matter what grade 3 you're on, it will proc because Fedora is a Dark Face unit. Then, next one is the Overdress PGs. Like I was saying, I was considering cutting a draw trigger to run 1 normal PG in the deck, because then I could bottom deck it with high class pop. I don't think it's that important now, so take it as you will. I just don't think it's that big of a deal in post ban list Megacolony. Then we have a new grade 1 that came out in set 6, Diantha. She allows you to CP1 call anything from your drop zone when she's called from a hand. So you can get back your pieces. This is a way of re-insurgence that's not in order. The problem I ended up facing is just Counterblast, so I'm not really sure if she's worth playing or not. And then you have Urgula, who is a form of resist. So this is another like meta call. If you feel like there's a bunch of decks that are trying to choose your rear guards or choose your vanguards for effects, you can just do this and your opponent just suffers. Now for the rest. Grade 2s. There's a new 10k promo for Standard Cinderella that makes 2 tokens. So Grade HR uses it better, but we can still use it. So I'm going to be testing that out. And then another card is another promo. I think his name is Mathels. It's a promo grade 2 that when it intercepts, you can discard a card, check top 2, and call them to Guardian Circle or get rid of them. And it's just kind of fun. It's like a little surprise shield. But the issue is it has to intercept, so good luck with that. Then there is Stampeding Red. So I took him out for a Sweet Cocktail, but Stampeding Red is not a bad card. It's a CB1 draw, plus he gets +6 and it can cradle. I just didn't like the counterblast, so I took him out because he was counterblasting. But with my current build, I could definitely see adding him back in, just because it's a free draw. You literally call him, you CB1, and then you draw a card, he replaces himself, and then you get a cradle. I don't know what to cut necessarily, maybe the Revolutions to run him, but that's possible. There's Battler S, which is a discard to call. The problem with her is your opponent has to have a completely rested board state for this to happen, which may or may not happen. And then your paying cost to get her back, it's not that big of a deal. And then she soul charges one, which is nice, but then she has an on-placement skill to soul blast to make her opponent call over your guard, which may or may not be fruitful. So that's another card that's worth testing. And then there's Mantis, which is a CB1 check top 6 out of 3. So once again, it's another way to try to get the correct grade 3 right if you want. Same thing with Sticky Bolus. CB1 check top 7 for Dark Face, and add 2 with different names. And then for grade 3s, you have Inlet that allows you to get a free draw. So I'm considering running him in this build. Then you have the Dark Face PR, which you can cradle and kill stuff and proc cradles. It's okay. Then you have Antlion, which I just don't think he's that good anymore. Then for the grade 4s, you have Sabreeze, which you can run, but just this deck doesn't combo off that hard, so I just don't think it's that big of a deal to run Sabreeze. Zoa's not that good anymore. Our GB8's not that good anymore. And then our Perdition Dragon's never been that good. Scarab Gas is another decent G-Guard option. Then for orders, you could run Clear Frame, so if you're worried about Loot Joker, you run Clear Frame. Then you can run Frozen Resentment. This allows you to call a card from drop for a Soul Blast. This is not that bad. I would really consider this as well. And then there's Tear for Malice, which if you run Cinderella, Tear for Malice is more likely to be played. But if you don't, the Retire 2 Rear Guards might just be too costly for this build. So that wraps up my options and my deck and why I'm considering these options and the choices I made. I'll talk about my performance. 8 rounds, I went 5-3. First round, I ended up fighting against Narcomi and I lost. He just had me dead to rights there. Just so much aggression, so much pressure. The Stride ripping cards in my hand Sunverse is just really good. And the multi-attacking, the early game advantage. It draws so much. It's just a fantastic deck. And this build just wasn't able to keep up, so I need to really consider updating this deck to fight an even better percentage chance into Narcomi. Some of my tech choices didn't even matter to Narcomi, like my Key Blister and my Shadow Elemental. It didn't come in for that matchup. And then the binding really hurts. Then my next matchup I ended up winning was against Royals, used Majesty Lord Blaster. Just Ghidorah Empress did all the work. And then my third game I ended up fighting against DI. It was a very close game. My restanding cards, my G Blister didn't matter, but Shadow Elemental did matter. And then I made a misplay at the end. I went Ghidorah when I should have went Flawless, and I might have won the game if I did that. Then next round, I ended up fighting Novas, which is my worst matchup because I'm all about restanding. Well, resting the restanders, don't let him restand. And he's just like, no, I'm gonna do what I want. It's just like, oh, okay. So he just blew me up. There's not much I can do about it. and I lost that game. So by round 4, I was X3. You're out. You just drop. And you need to be X0 or X1 to guarantee top 8. And I'm like, yeah, I'm screwed. But my brother was still doing good, so I kept playing. So then I ended up fighting Overlord. I won. It's pretty one-sided. It was a decent game, but it was pretty one-sided. And then my next game, I fought D-Police, where my tech choices came in. My Blister, my Dismal came up, and it mattered. And my Blitz PG mattered. And then after that, I ended up fighting Regalia. Well, once again, those choices came up again. So these are decks I predicted I was gonna fight, and I fought them. I fought all of them. So yeah, I really needed to win that DI matchup. I wouldn't have fought the Novograt player, and I really needed to win that Narukami matchup that I lost as well. If I would have won those, the deck probably would have made top 8. Just unfortunate. Then my last round, my opponent didn't show up, so I got a bye. So I don't really count that as a win. My opponent didn't show up, but technically I went 5-3. And that wraps it up. Leave your comments below. I really want to know what y'all are thinking with Megacolony, your builds, your choices. I've seen a couple other ones top and premium. So you can reach out to me at Twitter. You can reach me in Discords. I'm in a couple of them, and of course my own Discord. You can reach me on Facebook and other social medias. Thank you for watching.
Alright guys, y'all take care, and thank you again for watching.